Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Noem, thank you for being here again before the committee today. I also appreciated the time we spent yesterday morning on the phone discussing a variety of issues, and I look forward to those kinds of discussions continuing in the future. As you know, the protections for sharing information under the Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act of 2015, confusingly referred to as CISA 2015, but it deals with the information sharing, expires at the end of September. This is a critical authority that applies to information sharing across the federal government, not only to CISA, the agency, but it also allows the agency the ability to have robust and timely cyber threat information shared between public and private sectors, as well as among private sector companies, so folks have an understanding of the threat landscape that's out there and have full awareness of what's coming at them by nefarious actors. Does the administration support the extension of this incredibly important authority that I've been hearing about from a number of stakeholders that they're very concerned it's going to expire? Does the administration support the extension?
Yes, we do. Thank you, Senator Peters. It's a very important piece of legislation. Does endorse it for 10 more years, which I think is a long enough time frame for us to really make sure that we have the stability we need in this area to create those kind of partnerships you were talking about with private industry. We need their expertise and their knowledge and their interaction with those across the world that hate the United States of America to come in and cooperate with us to make sure we're prepared to secure our systems and our critical infrastructure.
Great. Well, I look forward to your support, the administration's support, so we can pass this extension, a 10-year extension, before it expires. You're absolutely right how critical it is. Secretary Noem, I'm also concerned about the increasing number of security threats that we're seeing from drone incursions to public spaces, to airports, critical infrastructure sites all across our country, as we spoke about yesterday morning. Just last week, a man in Michigan was arrested after he allegedly tried to attack the U.S. Army's Tank Automotive and Armaments Command facility at the Detroit Arsenal in Warren. According to prosecutors, the man flew a drone over the facility to conduct operational reconnaissance, further highlighting the need to ensure that law enforcement is properly resourced to deal with this growing threat. While I understand that there are safety concerns with the technology that need to be addressed by the FAA, I would like for all of us to work together to reauthorize DHS and DOJ's counter-drone authorities that also expire at the end of September, because this threat, as you know, is not going away. Last Congress, Senator Johnson and I introduced a bill, S-1631, that I think is a good starting point. So my question for you, Secretary Noem, is can I get your commitment that we can work together to not only reauthorize these authorities on a long-term basis, but actually strengthen those authorities to make sure we deal with this persistent threat?
Yes, Senator Peters, I'll take a look at your legislation specifically, but we do need to reauthorize the authorities that we do have in order to address not just our Homeland Security day-to-day activities, but we're hosting some very large events in this country that will, I think, challenge our ability to secure that many large events at one time. So having those kind of authorities and addressing what we can do to cooperate with states and local governments and cities in locations where big events happen would be very important to do that. So you're right, the expansion of those authorities needs to be looked at to make sure it's appropriate, but also gives us the tools we need to keep people safe. We've got the Club Cup coming this summer, the World Cup next summer, which will be 10 million ticketed people, 22 million people that will be involved in the activities surrounding it. The Olympics coming. That's important we address this now so we can be proactive.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate that. Senator Johnson and I would appreciate it. And our biggest supporter for our bill is actually the National Football League, who have real concerns about their games. We've already had games interrupted, and it could be more serious at some point. Secretary Noem, 2 weeks ago during a Senate appropriations hearing, you told me very clearly to the questions that I had that CISA was, quote, back on mission, end of quote. If this is accurate, my question is, why is the administration proposing to cut $500 million from an agency's budget for an agency that's on mission right now, when those activities you previously described as off mission, specifically election security work, cost about $20 million. Those folks have been let go. They're no longer there. I can understand a cut of $20 million, but this is a cut of $500 million. So specific, if you could tell this committee what specific activities or departments at CISA does the department plan to cut as a result of these very large proposed cuts? And if you could please give some specific examples of offices and programs. And as you know, the CISA statutory requirements are extensive. You have a lot on your plate. You have a lot to cover. You need to have resources to do that. But this is a pretty significant cut in funding, and we need to know exactly what protection will not be offered after these cuts go into effect.
Yeah, we will continue to fulfill all the statutory requirements that the Department of Homeland Security has and has given to CISA as in the work that it does. Putting it back on mission means that it fulfills the responsibility of why it was created, and that's to be the cybersecurity agency of the nation, to go out and secure our critical infrastructure, work with small and medium-sized businesses and states and localities to give them the insight and wisdom they need to make sure that they're not vulnerable to hackers or nefarious activity. Getting rid of censorship, getting rid of the Ministry of Truth at CISA, the employees that were duplicative, that were fulfilling roles that wasn't related to cybersecurity was something that we addressed. I would say under the President's budget, cybersecurity is only strengthened, and we're doubling down on the need to build private and partner with those individual industries that have the expertise and knowledge that we've lacked for so long. And they're looking for some more abilities to do new things for this country as far as giving us insight into nefarious activities. But they do ask that we give them some level of protection from liabilities. And I think you're very familiar with some of their concerns. I want to work with you to see what we can do to address those needs so that we can have the information we need to really, truly secure the country. One of the biggest alarming things, and I think I visited with you about this before, was that we still don't necessarily know how to stop the next Volt typhoon. And private industry can help us with that, with their knowledge. They see things that we don't, and that partnership could be strong and make sure that we're not spending more dollars with no means to an end, that we actually have an end that relies and ends with a more secure United States of America.
I look forward to working with you on that. Thank you. Thank you again, Secretary Noem, for being here. I just want to follow up briefly with Chairman Paul's questions about the cost of the wall, the billions of dollars that are going to be put forward. We do have to have accurate numbers so that we could look at that for funding it. But I would hope you also take a look at all of the cost of a wall, because there are a lot of other secondary kinds of defenses you have to put forward. I was at the wall. I've been with security folks. They tell me that a lot of the cartels have designed very sophisticated technologies to get over the wall. They're called ladders and they're called ropes. So a wall doesn't really do the job if there's not a lot of other background technologies there. So you just can't put out a cost for the wall. That's money that's not going to be as effective without everything else. So let's have a discussion about that. For the first time in U.S. history, the federal government, at the direction of President Trump, is moving immigrants apprehended and detained in the United States on civil immigration charges to Naval Station at Guantanamo Bay, which I know you're very familiar with. In March, I traveled to Guantanamo Bay with several colleagues to have a firsthand examination of the detention operations underway. And I certainly have serious concerns about the cost involved there. To date, can you tell us the total cost for detaining individuals at Guantanamo Bay?
You want the cost per individual?
Do you have that?
I do not have that with me today, sir. I can get that for you.
Well, I do have a number. Do you know how much it costs to hold an immigrant in ICE detention facility in the United States? Do you have that number?
Are you talking per day? 100 and I believe the last estimate that I got was $142 a day, around in that approximately, per day.
Yeah, but it's close to what I'm understanding. I understand it's $165 per day, so it's in the range. I'm still waiting for detailed financial information from this administration from my time to Guantanamo Bay. In fact, a letter with Ranking Member, or Chairman Paul and the Ranking Member together, we wanted more information on the costs there. When I was there, the 2-month cost estimate for operations was $43 million when we were down there talking to the officials there. And that does not include transportation to and from the island. We find that people are sent to the island and then they're sent back to the United States again before they're sent out. I'm not sure why we have all those costs. We have plenty of ICE facilities to keep them here. Why you have to send them there and back. And on the day that I visited, there were 87 people in custody. And my understanding is that's a pretty normal number. At that time, at least. So my back-of-the-napkin calculation, we're waiting for your numbers, is that it's costing about $100,000 a day to keep someone at Guantanamo Bay. Man, this is like ripe for Doge. Why is Doge not down there? We're spending $100,000 a day to keep someone at Guantanamo, and we fly them down there, we keep them there a while, then we fly them back to the United States. Or we could keep them here for $165 a day. I think that's kind of outrageous. So, I'm concerned by the staggering cost of this, and I would hope, Secretary, you could commit providing this committee a detailed breakdown of the total cost of that operation there. There were just a sea of empty beds. There was all sorts of security folks and nobody in those beds, which is why it's so expensive. So Chairman Paul will probably use this on his Festivus report later, I'm sure, of outrageous government spending, and I'll look forward to seeing that. Secretary Noem, are you familiar with Section 872 of the Homeland Security Act of 2002?
It sounds familiar, sir. You'll have to remind me the topic, yes.
Well, Section 872 requires you, as Secretary, to provide a 60-day notice to Congress of any creation, deletion, consolidation, or alteration of organizations within the department that are not required in statute, which must include an explanation for the rationale behind any charges. It also prohibits you from making any changes to offices in the status. So my question for you is, why have you not provided notice to Congress of the changes you are making at the department? And will you be doing so in the near future? And will you include intended reduction in forces in that? For example, you've already terminated virtually the whole Civil Rights and Civil Liberties Office staff without any communication to Congress about your intent. And the only letter yesterday claiming all of the statutory responsibilities would be met, you sent a letter, but it conflicts certainly with the whistleblower disclosure that I received last week. So please explain to the committee why you are not following this law.
Well, Senator, we are following that law. Those offices that you referenced are still open and functioning and providing their duties as required, but they have been right-sized. Many times the Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties, or the Ombudsman Office, which you and I visited about before, had grown quite expansive. They were used as a political tool, suing and attacking each other and censoring individuals and not doing the job for which they were created. So we've right-sized them, put them back on mission, and if there would be an instance to where notification is required, I certainly will follow that.